got the call, ran over to her apartment. Her car was still there, and there was still like snow on the ground a little bit. I go into her place. I mean, it's obviously that like all of her stuff is there. Doors are open, like things are open. So I knew like something, like I just knew it was bad. And so, I mean, I first called my dad and mom, like something horrible happened. I'm calling the police, and then I called the police.
On March 24th of 1998, Danielle had gone over to her sister's apartment to find that her sister, Stacey Colbert, wasn't there. During an investigation, it was discovered that a couple in an apartment above Stacey's heard screaming and loud banging in the early morning hours of March 22nd. However, they did not call law enforcement. A missing person investigation would start. Stacy would not be found till 2004, when a hunter in a different Ohio county was out looking for his dog.
They reported it was like a 40-year-old, but I still got those little hairs raised on the back of my neck, thinking I have a really bad feeling about this.
25 years later, no arrests have been made, and Stacy's family and friends are still searching for answers.
Just In Case You Forgot podcast is produced and hosted by William Swafford. Music was put together by William Swafford.
This first episode of Just In Case You Forgot was set to drop for all to hear on March 22nd of 2023. There's a reason for that. March 22nd of 2023 marks the 25th anniversary of the day 23-year-old Stacey Colbert went missing from her apartment in Columbus, Ohio in March of 1998. The big city of Columbus, the state capital of Ohio, and the home of the Ohio State University. So this is what little is known about what happened on and around March 22nd of 1998. The apartment complex that Stacy lived at was called Governor Square's Apartments. The building was a 2-story building. Stacy lived in apartment A on the first floor. There was a couple of people who lived on the second floor in an apartment above Stacy's in apartment C. It is said that the people in apartment C heard screams and loud banging around 4 in the morning. However, they did not call law enforcement. Then around 2 in the afternoon of that same day, a neighbor from apartment C on the second floor had gone down to Stacy's apartment to check on her. The neighbor knocked on the door and received no answer. That neighbor notices Stacy's cat roaming around the outside of the apartment. The last known person to see Stacy alive was a pizza delivery person on March 21st around 6 in the evening. No one would notice that Stacy was missing till on the 24th of March, Stacy's sister, Danielle, would receive a call from Stacy's employer because Stacy had not shown up for work. Danielle rushed over to Stacy's apartment. However, Stacy wasn't there, but her car and other things were. This would start off as a missing person investigation. However, after 3 days of investigating, it was turned into a homicide investigation without recovering Stacy's body. Stacy's remains would not be found till 2004 in a different Ohio county. That is the little bit of information known about what happened on and around March 22nd of 1998. The 3rd of February of 2023, Stacy would have been 48 years old. That is the little bit of information a person can find on the Ohio Attorney General website. All a person has to do is go to ohioattorneygeneral.gov, scroll down to the very bottom of the web page, and there in small lettering is a link to Ohio's unsolved homicides. Click on the link and one can view Ohio's unsolved homicide cases. It's my opinion that the link for Ohio's unsolved homicide cases should not be at the bottom of the web page in small letters. It should be somewhere on the page where it can get people's attention. On the website is a profile for Stacey Colbert, case number 1208. There is a short description of Stacy. then a 5 to 6 sentence paragraph about the investigation. This profile on the Ohio Attorney General website for Stacy, and most other profiles on the site, has not been updated for at least a year and a half that I know of, and I believe it is safe to say it has not been updated for a very long time. I had run across Stacy's case about a year or so ago when looking through unsolved homicide cases for a podcast that I once did called Cold Ohio. Stacy's case was once again brought to my attention by a tweet on Twitter by a lady named Paula, one of Stacy's college sorority sisters. Now once again, I find myself looking for information on Stacy's case and who she was as a person. I cannot tell you what kind of person Stacy was or how she lived her life. This is how I can describe Stacy. She was 5'1" in height, weighed around 120 pounds, brown eyes, and dark brown, shoulder-length curly hair. She had a big smile. She was an attractive young lady. I know that by looking at a picture that I found online. So how would someone who knew Stacy describe her?
She was a light. She always had a ready smile. She would do anything for you. Her laugh could fill a room. She's really smart, short, dynamic. Of course, all of us, in my family are pretty short, my side of the family. She had a heart of gold and was very driven towards goals, goal-driven. Just a wonderful human being.
She was the one everyone could turn to. She was bright. There were always boys around her. She was so outgoing. She didn't know a stranger. She trusted everybody until you really gave her a reason not to.
That sounds a lot better than myself describing to you what I see on a picture that I found online. So to understand a little bit about who Stacy was as a person and what little is known of the details of this 25-year-old cold case, I got to talk to some of those who were close to Stacy. The first person that I wanted to talk to is one of the people who knew Stacy the best.
My name is Danielle Nussbaum. I started off as Danielle Colbert. I was born, that's my maiden name. Here to talk about my sister, her name is Stacey Colbert.
Before asking Danielle about the day Stacy had gone missing, I wanted to know more about Stacy. Stacy and Danielle are not originally from Ohio. Their family started in the state of Illinois.
We were both born in Chicago, Illinois.
Stacy was born on February the 3rd of 1975.
Then when we were about in preschool and second grade, we moved down to Charleston, Illinois. It's a town located where Eastern Illinois University is. It's a very, very small town. Half the town are the locals, and half the town really are populated by the students from Eastern Illinois University.
Charleston is on the eastern part of the state of Illinois. It is a decent-sized city with a population of a little over 17,000 residents.
It was a great place to spend your formative years. Had very small schools. We were both pretty active. Stace was involved in track. She actually ran in elementary school. They had this race. I want to say it was either a 5K or a 10K. It must have been a 5K. And the winner got like a helicopter ride, or one of the top three got a helicopter ride, and she was like one of the top three and got to do that. She was kind of into sports, and I was more music theater growing up.
It can be a good thing that two siblings who could be competitive to have different interests.
So then when she got to high school, she played tennis. She actually lettered. She was a southpaw. She was left-handed, and she lettered her freshman year, which even in sports back then weren't necessarily the same crazy way sports are today.
Yeah.
But she earned that letter. Was we were all really, really proud of her for doing that. I was more in the show choir and music part of it. We were about 2.5 years apart and 3 school grades apart. And I'm going to be transparent here. We had when you have girls who are so close together in age, you have a lot of competitive feelings.
Oh, yeah.
Growing up. Yeah. So we were, the good news is we weren't involved in the same thing. So even though both of us were kind of die hard in our areas, they didn't overlap. Although in high school, my junior year, she did take a choir class and she was in with me. And honestly, I kind of loved that. I was so excited to have her join me there, although singing was definitely not her forte. But in high school, she did tennis, and she did that all 4 years. She also did the cheerleading for her first 2 and Trojettes for her last 2. And I was in Trojettes just my senior year in show choir. So we didn't overlap in that. And the Trojettes are our drill team, the high school drill team, where you do dances and you compete and get to also do parades and march with the band and do all those things. So we were both fairly active. She also had a job. She worked at Taco Bell doing those signs. Like, she started at 14. She was always very, she liked nice things. And so, Mom said, okay, here's my budget. If you want above and beyond that, then you can help contribute to that. And that was very important to her. So feeling and looking good, feeling good about herself. And part of that was part of that experience. We were complete opposites on that too.
Danielle would start at Ohio State University while Stacy was still in high school. Danielle remembers Stacy and their mom visiting. She also remembers how Stacy liked murder mysteries and scavenger hunts.
She and my mom would come to visit me. We did air bands, and so I mean, she was a part. I was that big sister. I would always take care of her. I would be the one to make sure, she was very, very, very creative. Her birthday parties growing up were insane. She had she did the murder mysteries before murder mysteries were popular. She created all these characters and would assign them to her friends. And they did a fake graduation and all the girls were wearing garbage bags. And I mean, and they made their paper, graduation cap or whatever. I mean, and they were very intricate and each character had these deep storylines. I still have all of that stuff in scrapbooks. And but anyway, when she when she wanted to go on a scavenger hunt for her 16th birthday or 17th birthday, and so I came back into town and would make sure I took a carload of kids. Me and my friends would help them be able to celebrate her birthday like that. I mean, and it was always creative things like that.
I wondered why 2 sisters from Charleston, Illinois would travel 296 miles to Columbus, Ohio to attend Ohio State University.
When we were in her senior year, I went off. So when I graduated, I went off to Ohio State. Back when we were both, probably she was in intermediary school. I was in just had started high school. I knew I was going to Ohio State. And so we did a campus tour. It was one of my family schools. And of course, when you do that first college tour, it's pretty exciting. And I definitely wanted to go there. Stace was more conflicted about that. She wasn't really sure where she wanted to go. She had a very challenging visual disorder. So she was 1 out of 10,000 kids who could control going cross-eyed. But the challenges with that is when she would study for long periods of time, it would create medical problems for her. She would have really bad headaches. And so she wasn't able to study and do that deep type of reading for long periods of time. And it definitely impacted her studies, especially in elementary and middle school. And they didn't have the advocacy that they have today. Like, there's a lot more tools for parents and kids who are struggling with things like that. And my mom was a pretty strong advocate for her, and she actually got her to switch some elementary schools. And if Stace were still here with us today, she would be like, "It wasn't. I fought through it. I don't want you to bring this up," because she was a very positive person. So she didn't really like that. She would say, "Okay, this is the next check on my list. This is what I have to do next. This is what I have to do next." She didn't really see it as a challenge to overcome. She just was like, "Okay, this is my goal, and this is what I'm going to do." She was very driven and very goal oriented.
Stacy was clearly the type of person who did not give up when life got difficult.
So that being said, her grades were, she did okay, but she probably wasn't like a B student. Like, she really had to struggle for those C's. So she ended up going to Lakeland Community College for the first quarter. She was granted, because it was a recognized learning disability, she was granted later access into it with accommodations into Ohio State. It was funny because she really didn't think she was going to make it in. So Mom's like, "Danielle, can you help her?" And so I went back, and she and I were working on the financial aid stuff. And I'm like, "Oh, Mom, just, can't you do this?" And I was, as an older sister, I'm like, "Come on." But I sat there, and she and I ran through what you need to do to fill out those forms, because they are not easy. And again, none of it was online. Now the schools have such great people and guidance counselors to help you try to do that. And a lot of it's electronic. So when you sign up for those comprehensive tests, that your scores automatically go to your schools and things like that. So those paper trails aren't like what they were. Anyway, so I came over, helped her out, and she got in. She just had to start one quarter late. And I was already in my sophomore year. Maybe, yeah, I must have been in my sophomore year is when she came over. Trying to remember, it's just been a couple of years. Anyway, so she came, and maybe it was my junior year. It had to have been my junior year. Anyway, so she lived in Morrill Tower, and I got a funny story. She would tell my dad, "Yeah, they put me in with these basketball players." And I was like, and this was at the time, Katie Smith. I don't know if you're familiar with her or not, but
no. I know absolutely nothing about women's basketball.
She kind of brought a lot of notoriety to the Ohio State program. They were a tremendous women's basketball team.
Huh.
So I come into our dorm room, and I'm going all fangirl because Katie Smith was one of her suite mates in the dorm. They had 8 girls who lived in her suite.
Yeah.
I call my dad. I'm like, "Dad, oh my God, it's Katie Smith." So, she's like, "Oh, it's basketball players. They're fun. They're awesome." But she wasn't really, I was fangirling when I found out. That was, so she did that. She ended up joining a sorority, Alpha Delta Pi. And she going through that process, she would ask, because I was also in a different sorority that she chose, and she actually chose perfectly. The young ladies that are a part of that house are phenomenal, and I am still pretty close to all of them. They've been tremendous throughout this whole tragic situation, and I owe them a lot. To kind of keep her spirit alive and things like that.
Stacy's sorority sisters started the Finishing Stacy's Fight Facebook page. They have not given up hope on finding justice for Stacy.
When she got into the sorority, she loved the girls. She became a part of their official officers and things like that when she came in. Because if she's going to do something, she wants to put herself into it. And if she has things that she doesn't like about it, like one thing my grandfather says is, if you don't like it, join the board, like, voice your opinion and, be a part of that change and make it better. Like, if that's how you're going to be able to get what you want from things. And so she did. Like, she became an officer, I want to say right away. And even for the short amount of time that she was alum, she would go back and help brush girls. And she was like one of those handheld delegates. I'm sure the girls in her sorority can talk better to that because they were more a part of that. I was really, when she came to school, probably my junior, senior year, I was more on the looking to graduate part. I was working and I had, I was taking insane amount of credit hours, like 21 to 23. And I think 23 was the max. It was when Ohio State was still on a quarter system. And I had a boyfriend, all that. But we were really close. But we really, we kind of dropped the whole, competitive sister sibling rivalry stuff pretty much right after she graduated. I am incredibly grateful for the 6 months, because this happened just about 6 months after she graduated. And I'm incredibly grateful for that time.
Danielle helped Stacy stay in contact with family.
I would always be the one to make sure, like, I would pick her up. My grandparents had lived in Cleveland. I had one set in Cleveland and one set in Minneapolis. I would make sure that she stayed connected to the family, that we both were staying connected to the family, make sure I drove us there so that she could connect, that we could all connect. And so, like, for holidays for that year, the flyer, the picture on the flyer was our holiday card. That was our picture together to give out to the family. So we did have a little bit of a laughable moments over those, because, like, we split. Okay, I arranged it, got us together, and then she was supposed to send it out. And she ended up giving it back to me to send out. There were some words exchanged over that, but it all got done. But that was probably our last fight that we had, and that was the December, maybe the November of 97.
Yeah.
And but then after that, like, her birthday was in February. We probably saw each other once or twice a week. We'd go out to eat. I took her out for her birthday. We went to, as a gift, she and I went to go see Titanic together. And we talk about it, like, probably weeks later, we were still talking about the ending. We were, as you can see, we were being just a little over 2 years apart. We lived 2.1 miles from door to door. So she lived in Governor Square. I lived in, off of, oh goodness, what is the name of the road? Anyway, it was, if you take Bethel, it's 2.1 miles. It was this little apartment complex.
Stacy and Danielle both shared a love for cats.
So she went with me to get my cat. I ended up getting a cat named Spilky, and she helped me pick her out. And we put her cat and my cat together, and she nicknamed my cat Lucifer. She did not, because my cat was not very nice to her little baby cat. I adopted an older cat that was, she very particular and not very good to other animals. And her kitten was just a tiny little kitten, and she has a little bell on her kitten, and but we tried to make them get along with it. That, we just didn't have enough time for that.
Yeah.
Because we had done that in January, was when when that happened.
I read in many articles that Stacy had landed an internship with McDonald's for the 1996 Olympic Games that were held in Atlanta, Georgia. So I had to ask Danielle about it.
So let me take a step back in college. So she was originally going to go into, what's the name of it? Fashion merchandising. So, like, in high school and probably maybe her first 2 years of college, she was all about, like your colors and, like, what you wear and styling and things like that. So she landed her first internship at the Atlanta Apparel Mart. My parents moved to Atlanta my junior year, her freshman year. And so over that summer, she was friends of my parents were affiliated with the Atlanta Apparel Mart, and she was able to get that. And she decided she never wanted to work with models again. That wasn't her. They were a little particular and not fun to work with for whatever reason. And so she decided that she was going to go into marketing. And so the following year, very, very close friends of our family are on the executive team. We're on the executive team of McDonald's. And so she was talking to them, and they had spots. They were executive sponsors. Stacy was into marketing and logistics, and said, "Hey, we've got a role." And so she was able to. I mean, she had to do a presentation. There was a whole interviewing process and things like that. And they all, her presentation went really well, and they accepted her into that internship. And she did. She got to actually work on the Olympics. She worked at Olympic Village with all of the athletes.
That's
it was
awesome.
Amazing. Like now I was at school. I was still working. So she and my mom got to go to like opening ceremonies and closing ceremonies, and I got to hear all about it. And she gave me her work shirts. I appreciate that. She's like, "Oh, we're all first college students." I'm like, "Yeah, I know." But yeah, it was awesome. It was really, really awesome. Yeah, she did she did this whole marketing plan for it, and it's kind of one of those artifacts. It's pretty amazing. It's pretty cool if you're like marketing. I'm more not. I'm in more like SQL and techie.
Yeah.
So it's not my forte, but reading through it, I think it looks really cool.
At this point, after talking to Danielle, a small part of me can understand what could make this a hard homicide investigation, because Stacy was on the right path in life. She had surrounded herself with good people. Who would want to hurt Stacey Colbert? Was it someone that she knew? Or was she a random victim of a horrible person that was roaming the streets of Columbus, Ohio in 1998? How did a missing person investigation go to a homicide investigation within 3 days without the recovery of a body? Here is what to look forward to in the next episode. I will be talking to some of Stacy's sorority sisters to learn more about Stacy and her college days. Then we'll start getting into the days surrounding the day that 24-year-old Stacey Colbert went missing.
This little pledge, I met her at the party, and she was just the cutest thing. She had this beautiful smile, and she was just so friendly. She wasn't like stuck up and didn't have an attitude, which is why I knew she was going to fit in great with our house, because we weren't those kind of girls. AEP was printing off just tens of thousands of flyers every day and delivering them to the sorority house. The sorority house kind of became like our central place to meet. It was a residential door. It opened inward. He had kicked that door shut to keep her in. I think it was somebody who probably wanted more from Stacy than she wanted to give. Even though I knew she was dead, I knew they weren't going to find her alive. As long as she was still missing, there was still just that glimmer of hope.
Please don't forget that this is an unsolved homicide. So if you have any information about the death of Stacey Colbert, please contact the Delaware County Sheriff's Department, Ohio.
Just in Case You Forgot podcast is produced and hosted by William Swafford. Music was put together by William Swafford.